From puking before games, believing in government conspiracies, or even talking to goalposts, these 10 goalies take the word crazy to a new level. Number 10. Tuukka Rask. Tuukka Rask doesn't like shootouts. He tends to get very, very angry when he loses at shootouts. It goes back to his days for the Providence Bruins in the AHL when he had possibly the most memorable freakout in recent hockey memory. It's continued to his days in the NHL too. In fact, a study done in 2013 concluded that Rask has about a 33% chance of absolutely freaking out when he loses in a shootout. The numbers haven't been updated in recent years, but it wouldn't surprise us if the percentage remained about the same. Number 9. Roman Cechmanek. Goalkeepers typically dislike being hit in the head by shots. It hurts and causes your ears to ring for a while afterward. But not Roman Cechmanek, who sported a unibrow and was known to utilize his head to make saves, which became known as skull saves among Flyers fans. Cechmanek's method was unconventional at best, yet he was incredibly effective in his brief time in Philadelphia. That is, until the playoffs. Cechmanek gave the Ottawa Senators a 3-goal lead in Game 4 of the 2001-2002 playoffs, with Philadelphia already trailing the series 2-1. Cechmanek came out to center ice and began berating his teammates, believing that they were failing to live up to their end of the agreement and were not performing properly in front of him. In return, some Flyers players allegedly launched pucks at his head during practice the next day. Cechmanek lasted only 1 year in Philadelphia before being traded to Los Angeles. Number 8. Tim Thomas. If Tim Thomas was unhappy with you, he made sure you knew it and felt it. If you walked into his space, he made you regret it, as when he sliced Carl Soderberg in the head. Or if you take liberties with one of his teammates, he won't wait for one of his teammates to act. He's going to take matters into his own hands. Thomas had a few significant off-ice incidents. After the Bruins won the Stanley Cup in 2010-11, Thomas was conspicuously absent from the team's visit to the White House with President Obama. During his absence, Thomas published the following statement: "I feel the federal government has grown out of control, endangering the rights, liberties and property of the people. This occurs at the executive, legislative and judiciary levels. This is in direct conflict with the Constitution and the goal of the Founding Fathers for the federal government. Because I believe this, I used my right as a free citizen today by refusing to visit the White House. This was not about politics or parties, although I believe both are to blame for the country's current plight. This was about a decision I had to make as a person. This is the only public statement I will make on the subject." Thomas opted to take a year off from hockey in 2012-13 after playing 1 more year in the NHL, citing the need to spend more time with friends, family and faith, which is a completely valid reason. Soon after, he began sharing stories on his Facebook page warning of a global economic disaster, with the caption, "See why hockey's just not that important right now?" Number 7. Turk Broda. Turk Broda was a legendary Toronto Maple Leafs playoff goalie in the 1940s and early 1950s. When asked why he was so successful in the playoffs, Broda stated, "The bonus money for winning wasn't much, but I always needed it. Maybe I was just too stupid to realize what was going on." Broda was also involved in a constant struggle with Leafs owner Conn Smythe about his playing weight, which the Toronto media called the Battle of the Bulge. Smythe threatened to replace Broda as starting goaltender with 2 AHL goalies if he did not reduce his playing weight to 190 pounds before the 1949-50 season. The debate culminated in a last weigh-in the day before opening night in front of the whole Toronto media, in which Broda came in at 189 pounds and was permitted to maintain his position. Number 6. Ed Belfour. Many fans refer to Ed Belfour as Crazy Eddie, so it's no wonder that he's on this list. Belfour was so fussy about his equipment and how it was handled that he told anyone who tried to go between him and his gear, "You touch my things, I'll kill you." Belfour was a phenomenal goalie, but was absurdly competitive and had extremely high expectations of himself and his teammates. As a result, he frequently clashed with equally competitive coach Mike Keenan in Chicago. An inebriated Belfour has been arrested twice for a variety of offenses. The first time in 2000, he promised the arresting authorities $100,000, followed by $1 billion in exchange for his release without charge. They unsurprisingly declined. But seriously, we'd give you $1 billion if you subscribe to our channel. Not? Number 5. Glenn Hall. Glenn Hall is widely regarded as one of the best goaltenders of all time. He was named to the first-team All-Star team 7 times and the second-team All-Star team 4 times. He played in 502 straight games, a record that'll almost certainly never be broken, and Hall would puke before each of those games. His logic for it, while more than a little wacky, does indicate exactly how driven he was to winning. I always believed that if I was physically unwell before the game, I played better. I felt I hadn't done everything I could to win if I hadn't been unwell. Legend has it that after vomiting up, Hall would then drink a glass of orange juice and walk out for the game. As strange as it may seem, it definitely worked for the Hall of Famer. Number 4. Patrick Roy. Patrick Roy, while possibly the best goalie of all time, was not without his eccentricities. Most notably, he openly revealed that he used to chat to his goalposts. When asked why, Patrick simply stated, "Because they are my friends." The goalposts are said to be the goalie's best buddy. However, it's generally more of a turn of phrase than an actual fact. Patrick was renowned as a furious competitor when he wasn't chatting to his posts. It's difficult to find someone who despises losing as much as he does. He demonstrated it both on the rink with his greatest buddies and as a coach. Roy got into a screaming match with Bruce Boudreau in his first game as an NHL coach, nearly knocking over the glass pane separating the two benches, taking his spot among the insane goalies. Roy was the coach and owner of the Quebec Remparts of the QMJHL prior to becoming the Avalanche's coach. Roy allegedly attacked the co-owner of the Chicoutimi Sequinans in January 2007 after Chicoutimi fans refused to let the Remparts back on their bus after the game. A year later, there was a battle between the two teams and Patrick's son, goaltender Jonathan Roy, got into a vicious fight with the Chicoutimi goaltender. Number 3. Ilya Bryzgalov. During the most of his career, Ilya Bryzgalov was regarded as a fairly ordinary goalkeeper. True, there was the "why you have to be mad" soundbite, but other than that, we had no idea how strange Bryz was. But when he was sent to goaltender purgatory, Philadelphia, and a camera was placed in front of him for NHL 24/7, we saw a different Bryz. In Philadelphia, Bryz didn't play well, but he was a quote machine. You never knew what Bryz was going to say next, whether it was about the world being humongous enormous, receiving the death penalty for killing a tiger in China, or praising the beauty of his Siberian husky as a hot female guy. Everything would have been perfect if he had been playing well. But he wasn't, and the relationship swiftly soured in the Philadelphia media. The Flyers ended up buying out the remaining 7 years of Bryzgalov's contract only to get him to go. Number 2. Ron Hextall. Next on the list is current Flyers general manager Ron Hextall, who is relieved that Bryzgalov is not in Philadelphia. While Hextall looks to have calmed down since retirement, apart from his rage directed at the underperforming Flyers, his fury was legendary during his playing days. Only 3 goaltender seasons have exceeded 100 penalty minutes, and Hextall has all 3 from 1986 to 1989. He also owns the league record for most penalty minutes by a goalie. The most notable instance was when he jumped Chris Chelios in the 1989 playoffs, who had previously concussed Flyers forward Brian Propp. If you messed with Hextall, you'd pay for it afterwards. He made certain of it. Number 1. Gilles Graton. You've probably never heard of Graton, the list's top goalie. He only played 47 NHL games in his career in the 1970s, but he was quite the character. Gilles is at the top of our odd goalies list. Graton said that he remembered earlier lifetimes and that his current life as an NHL goalie was punishment for his transgressions. The mask was the first thing you noticed about Graton. The mask wouldn't seem unusual in today's world, but this was the 1970s, and Graton played for the Rangers and Blues, which have nothing to do with cats. An abbreviated list of Graton's eccentricities follows. He once declined to participate in a game because the moon was in the incorrect position in the sky. He claimed to have been a soldier in the Spanish Inquisition who was run through with a lance in a previous life. This was his explanation for his abdominal aches. Former teammate John Davidson claimed he could walk into a room with a piano and start playing it beautifully despite having never played piano before. Rod Gilbert, a Hall of Famer, stated that Graton was the best goalie he'd ever played with. Gilles came to believe he was an executioner who used to stone people to death after being entranced one night. As pucks were fired at him, he mistook them for stones and jumped out of the way. Now moving on, click the video on the screen to watch the biggest draft steal in NHL history.